It's showtime. All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Tuesday Report. I am Chris Bennett.
And I am Todd Goldblatt. Did you like that day? Okay. Did you like that delay? That was brilliant. Don't lie.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was just so freaking brilliant. Jeez. Some people, I swear. Anyway, I got to give one shout out. I got yesterday actually. I went to one of my favorite restaurants, Popeyes. Okay, and y'all ran out of mayo. How can you run out of mayo? I don't understand that. For your chicken sandwiches, the most popular item probably on this in the United States right now. Okay, you run out of freaking mayo. And then I wanted a spicy chicken, and they're like, "Well, we don't have any spices. The spicy chicken is the spiciness is on the mayo." I was just like, "Oh man!" So I had to go home and I had to put my own mayo on my chicken. Popeyes, come on now. Sheesh.
That's a ball drop. But where did it happen? Is the question.
Yeah, where did it happen? Was it
an order error? Was it a error on the distributor? Was it an error by the driver? Accidents happen where sometimes you might hit something that you don't see in the parking lot and you drop the load and the mayonnaise is probably going to break, being that it's in those hard plastic. It'll kind of crack it and then it's dead anyway. That could have happened. Again, hopefully, if that was the case, they were at least able to get it Tuesday versus waiting till next week or however many days they go between orders.
Right.
Not to be the nice guy in the room, but I get it. Yeah. It is like how do you run out?
How do you run out?
You're right. You're right. I mean, I remember going to Tradewinds, right by Nights, and it was all you can eat fish, and they didn't have any fish. Not because they didn't order any. They told us they were like, no, somebody dropped the ball and just didn't order fish. Yet your fish night happens every month, I believe, or maybe even daily, or excuse me, not daily, weekly. Yeah. So I was like, that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Dropping the ball. That's how you lose customers, man. By dropping the ball.
I mean, mistakes happen. Come on, we're all human.
I don't know about you. I think I'm superhuman, but that's okay.
Listen, sometimes you have to feel superhuman, and then there's times to be superhuman. And if you choose to be superhuman, you might want to show that to people because you need to use it for the good and not the evil.
Evil.
All right. Great talk.
All right. Okay. Well, our music topic this week is 5 albums we can't live without. Now, we could have really expanded it to like 10, 15, 20. I know I could probably do like 20. All right. But because
I'm sure I could too, but we're new. Since I'm newer to this, I feel that it's probably better to start small and then we'll build.
We'll build it. I'm sure we could do a whole podcast just on the albums we cannot live without. I'm sure we can, and we could probably revisit that sometime down the road. Okay, to where that would be a topic that we could just discuss. That 20 albums we can't live without, and explain why we can't live without them, or something like that. So this is just a little taste of what could be in the future. So, I'll start first, actually. The first album, and this is not in any order per se. These are just 5 albums I can't live without. And the first album I can't live without is a band called Prong. All right. Tommy Victor, this band started out in 86, 87. They have almost a dozen albums out right now. They're most infamously known for a song back on this particular album, Cleansing, Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck. And I think that the B-side of the album, because when I originally bought it, I bought it on cassette. So ancient of me. Okay. So Gen X of me, buying stuff on cassette. Cassette? No one buys cassette. You're right. No one buys cassette. But no one buys CDs either now. So when I bought the album, the B-side was actually better than the A-side. But overall, the whole album is just great. They are a alternative. I think I classify them as an alternative groove metal industrial band. So,
okay.
I think if you haven't heard Prong Cleansing, go. You can find it on YouTube. They have the whole album on there, and but I will have to say that they're still putting out albums, and their last 5 albums have been just phenomenal. So there's my first
Keeping
album.
it consistent. That's what you want out of a great band in your eyes, is to stay consistent. It's difficult to do, much more difficult than people would think.
Well, after Cleansing, they had Rude Awakening, which was okay. It was an okay album, and then they broke up. Okay, I wouldn't say break up. They had a hiatus, and when they came back from my hiatus, Scorpio Rising, bad album. Ugh, God, that was horrible.
They got the rough off on that album, is what happened.
Right, and then they had another album that wasn't too good, but then they came out with oh God, it was the start of their 5-album run that was pretty good. So
okay,
I mean, nice. every band has it, but Cleansing wasn't their first album. They had 1, 2, 3 albums prior to that. So
gotcha.
And they were all pretty decent. So go ahead.
There's only one, right? No. So my first album that I'll bring up, and you know what? I don't really care what people think about it, but it's from the band They Might Be Giants, and the album is called Flood. And there are many great ha-ha songs. You know, going back to my dad when I was younger, when we lived in Northbrook, he took me we went to this art fair as a family, actually, and there was a weird band that was playing, and I was probably 6 or 7 at the time, and I'll tell you what, this band was called The Youpers, and they kind of had music similar to They Might Be Giants. Well, I was introduced to them by a good friend of mine, Dave Phillips, who introduced me to this album, and then I just kind of thought it was great because it's kind of comedic, weird, but interesting at the same time, I guess would be, you know, I'm fairly certain some of you that are, if they do tune in, would have at least heard either Istanbul or Triangle Man would be 2 that you may know, because of just that's what I find with my friends who have no idea what they are besides that. But that would be my first of the 5.
All right. I've heard that They Might Be Giants. I think their most popular one would be Istanbul, Constantinople, or whatever. And they used to come to Denver when I lived in Denver. They used to come to Denver a lot because they had actually a really good following in Denver. A lot of the younger Gen Xers really dug, you know, They Might Be Giants. So when I say younger, anybody like from 75 to 80. Those
made the cut at the end.
You made the cut. You made the cut. So they really dug, you know, They Might Be Giants, and I've actually heard them. So my second album, I Cannot Live I think I can't live without is Cannibal Corpse, The Bleeding.
It's a great album. I will say that.
That it is an album that I could listen to from the beginning to end, and then start at the beginning and hear it again.
Right.
This album was the last album Chris Barnes was on before he left. Before he left for 6 Feet Under, and George Corpse Grinder joined the band after they booted Chris Barnes out, and
Sure.
This album actually raised the profile of Cannibal Corpse, because the album before, Tomb of the Mutilated, okay, their song Hammer Smash Face was featured on Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Yes, it was. That is correct.
So, and Jim Carrey was a huge Cannibal Corpse fan.
He was. That's why he went up on stage and headbang with him for a bit.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
So he's like, if you go on YouTube, one of the Chris Barnes, or one of the members of the band at that time, will tell you how they got to be on Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And well, The Bleeding, I went and saw them. I went and saw Cannibal Corpse at the Gothic Theater in Inglewood, Colorado, and during the Bleeding Across America tour. So, and I still have the actual concert T-shirt. I can't fit into it, so.
God. You had to make that point, didn't you?
No, because I'm about 100 pounds heavier now. So, but
you need to lay off all that fried chicken.
Fried chicken Calgary. That's right. But the Bleeding is an excellent album.
Okay.
So very heavy. The drum work is just phenomenal. I mean, that, and it's just to me, it's a great album.
Sure. I'll add that I kind of go up and down with Cannibal Corpse. I'm kind of picky when it comes to that type of metal. I have a certain, but I know you have another album that you're going to bring up that I'm really excited to hear you say. But for my second album, I'm going to kick it relaxed, but I feel this by far was the greatest MTV Unplugged performance we saw, but it is Nirvana's Unplugged. That album from top to bottom, I could listen to it. I'm not even kidding. I would probably do it for 3 weeks at a time. Just when I would get in my car, it would have a different song played based on my drive time. So, I mean, there's every song from top to bottom. I mean, just an excellent album. All of their greatest hits that we know to be grunge, which I'm huge fans of as well. For some reason, I think he just upstaged himself when he went to the acoustic side. I think it was that great.
And there's been a lot of bands during the 90s that did an Unplugged.
Yeah, Pearl Jam did one.
Pearl Jam did one.
Did one, which was really good, I thought. But
didn't STP do one? Stone Temple Pilots?
Yes, they did. You are correct.
So, yeah, a lot of those bands. Didn't Alice in Chains do one too?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean,
they really hit the grunge bands, but like all of them did a great job of representing their music acoustic style.
Right.
Now, to me, like nothing against all the other performances, I thought they were great, but Nirvana just seemed to just knock my. I mean, when I watched it on TV live, I was just like, when is that going to hit the shelves? Is what I thought, So, but all right. So, what is your next album? Which I'm hoping, because I have it written down as to what you were going to discuss.
Okay.
I'm hoping it is
the third album I can't live without is another heavy band. Okay. Sepultura, Beneath the Remains. Which is ironic because I got to see this band as well in '94 when they came out with the Chaos AD tour, with the Fear Factory.
Okay.
But Beneath the Remains came out in '89 or '90. From beginning to end, that album is phenomenal. They were a little heavier thrash metal at that time, thrash metal band. And
you want to
they're
see
really
Circle Pit in the '90s? You can go to Sepultura and make that happen.
Sepultura, right?
Yeah,
For sure. So they were thrash. The drums are more like a death metal style drumming, but the guitar work and the vocals is more thrashish. But those cats from Brazil, they could really lay it down. So this is the original cast, the original band members, because after Roots Bloody Roots, they changed seniors, and then after that they wound up losing another guy who wound up going to form Soulfly, so which I think is another good band. So
yeah, they've got a couple good songs. Yeah.
So Beneath the Remains, it's not their first album. They had one album before that, Morbid Visions,
which was also a great album.
Which was also a good album, right? I mean, even some of the new singers, the work that they've done with him, their newest one, Quadra, is really good. It is really good. I
haven't heard much of it, so I gotta get into it.
Okay, so it is really good, and it's probably one of the few albums with the new lead singer that I actually like. So, but I'm old school Sepultura. I like Beneath the Remains, and Arise came after that, and then Chaos AD, Roots Bloody Roots, and Nation came out after that one. So
sure.
So
nice. So my third album, and it is a grunge album and a band that was talked about as doing a unplugged, but it is Pearl Jam 10. And I believe that was the album that also was at the beginning front of grunge music. I mean, it was right around the time, I think that at the same time Nirvana had their Smells Like Teen Spirit album.
Right.
Or Nevermind, excuse me. But Pearl Jam 10 has some deep influence on my musical turn, because I mean, around that time I was listening to ska, and not a lot of people really listen to the ska scene.
Right.
I was listening to Less Than Jake. There was a band called The Urge, which is kind of ska but has like a rap reggae type feel to it, but they were the trumpets and trombones element. Right. They're out of St. Louis. Actually, I would like to go to St. Louis to see them here, because I mean, the first time I saw them was with Annihilate locally, but so probably, man, it's so hard to make a decision what my favorite song would be on that album, but gosh, I don't even know if I can. Like, is that another one of those albums that's great? I can't pick one on Nirvana Unplugged either.
Is that the album with Alive on it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Funny story about that. I was living in Denver at the time, and I wanted to get into the music scene. Okay, I always had this ear for music. Okay, and I met these guys on this bulletin board. Yes, pre-internet. Okay, you used to have to go in on your computer and actually dial in to somebody else's computer. Okay. Sure. The old BBS, the bulletin boards. All right. Met these guys. met the guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I got this band that I can't get into, because we're like 17, 18. We can't get into, the clubs because we're underage, but we are come by, sometime and listen to us." So we used to do coffee house tours. And at the time, Denver was littered with coffee houses. All right. So we used to arrange every weekend because these kids had to go to the school during the week. And I wasn't going to schedule, them during the week. But like Friday and Saturday, I used to, schedule. I wound up being their manager, and I used to schedule them at these coffee houses. So, and the lead singer at the one of the bands I managed, he used to do a really good cover of Alive. So he did a really good job. So that's the one song that's probably got to be my favorite Pearl Jam song is Alive. So
wow, there's so many, man.
There is, especially on that album.
I mean, just in general. I mean, God, it'd probably be in my top 5. But "Elderly Woman Behind the Small Counter" or "Elderly Woman Behind the Counter in a Small Town" is a great song too.
So, all right. My fourth one would be, and I feel really bad not discovering this album until later down in like the 90s, because for some reason it kind of went out of print, but someone revived it and re-released it. If you didn't get the album on the first run of it releasing, you weren't gonna get it. But I liked it involves my favorite rapper of all time, KRS-One, and his group Boogie Down Productions and Criminal Minded. I think that is one of the best rap albums of all time. Criminal Minded. It was one of the first ones to feature like the gangster look on the cover. So that is an album I cannot live without. And the title song "Criminal Minded" is just he just lays it out. KRS-One, no doubt. To this day, he's still putting out albums. I think he just put out album number 25 or something. So he's still putting out albums. He's actually making money now. Okay, he's make more money now that he's putting out his own stuff than he was when he was tied to a record label. So yeah, if you can find it, pick it up. Criminal Minded, Boogie Down Productions.
All right, fancy. Yeah, mine is, my next album would be it's from the band Jurassic 5. They are kind of like they're not gangster rap, that's for sure. They've done a few songs that I've heard of, but they definitely caught my eye with the album What's Golden, which I know wasn't their first. And so I started listening to them, all the others after What's Golden, and I found that I liked a lot of, their lyrics, their beats, the way, I think I haven't seen them in concert, but it's a bucket lister. I would like to see them. I think it would be a good performance if I could catch them at a festival or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Cool. Well, my last album is "It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back" by Public Enemy. I still think this is the greatest hip hop album of all time, because it's raw. It's very conscientious rap. because they talk about things. It's deeper than you're just your average hip hop writing. It goes deeper. They talk about what goes on in the Black community. Police brutality, the war on drugs. I mean, Chuck D is just a phenomenal lyricist. Now his politics is something different, but he's a phenomenal lyricist. Okay.
Got to bring in politics. Come on, man. We're talking about music.
Okay, well, music sometimes is politics. So
I guess in a weird way, yeah, sure.
Yes. I'm sure you've heard of Rage Against the Machine. I'm sure you've heard of Rage Against the Machine. They're very political. So
yes. But they use the freedom of speech correctly.
True. But in essence, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back is a somewhat political album. Okay, because they talk about a variety of things. So that's my last album.
Okay. So. Gotcha. My last album is I changed it on you because I know I actually thought about it, and there is a punk album. It was called Survival of the Fattest series, and I believe it was volume 1. And that brought me into so many bands when for those of you who may remember, there was a record store called Atomic Records in Fair Hills Mall. This would have been in the mid 90s. And I believe the lead singer to Annihilate, Jeff, was, I think, owner, maybe. I don't know if he worked there, owner, whatever. He was definitely part of it, I believe. So, but
yeah, I didn't get to Springfield until 2005. So
okay, well, so this was where you would get that underground punk ska like stuff. Like you wouldn't find it at the music stores at that time, because I think at that time Blockbuster Music was coming around. We had a couple other music stores, but anyway, so that album, on the back of it, when I was reading the titles of the bands that were on there and the titles of the songs, at the bottom right corner, it said, "You should never pay more than $4.99 for this CD." So I bought that. I bought that for $5, and I was like, "This is amazing!" Like all these bands did, punk bands that did punk versions of oldies. It was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
I have it.
Punk out oldies music.
It's pretty good. Going to that, I think it was Less Than Jake, but whoever it was did a punk cover of the Laverne and Shirley theme song. And it was actually quite impressive. I mean, just because it was punk, and that's kind of like I had heard it, but yeah, dude, I could talk about ska and punk for a bit. But are we going to transition with a little sport talk real quick before we cut this one off for the evening?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit of sports. Ironically, we're near our 30-minute anyway, but I mean, it's good. It's all good. It's all good. Did you want to talk about what happened with your favorite team, the Cardinals?
Yes, the Cardinals. So I feel like we made out like bandits with this trade, and a lot of people agree, and that's probably putting it mildly. But so from what I see, the thing that's official is, out of the $199 million left on Arenado's contract, the Cardinals are only going to be on the hook for $149 million. And There was I haven't found anything, and I did not check today. But yesterday, when I took a peek, I started to find out what the possible players that were going to be included to go to Colorado. And honestly, I haven't looked at the farm system in a while, so I'm not terribly familiar with any of these names. But Austin Gomber, and he was a outfielder. And then you have John Torres, who I didn't write his position down, but then you have Lucan Baker, who was a first baseman and actually was the number 9 prospect on the team, but those weren't official. But the fact that we got him for $149 million and pretty much some just okay people, I feel like in the minors that could be good. There's no actual game film footage, whatever, from them going to the pros, but that's pretty damn impressive. I got to hand it to him. I don't know what Colorado's owner was thinking. There have been a few memes that I have seen. Somebody had the CR logo and there was a Y underneath it at an angle. Like, so you know how the C and the R play diagonally?
Uh-huh.
They put the Y at the diagonal on the right side of the R, so it looks like cry because you gave up area. Or so, but yeah,
I saw a meme today, which was the St. Louis Cardinals and the Los Angeles Angels have decided not decided to trade. Well, the Angels decided not to trade like Mike Trout to the St. Louis Cardinals for $50 million down and a whole bunch of prospects, but that wasn't going to happen. So
didn't your Phillies have something?
Yeah, my Phillies they re-signed 2 players from their team last year. Didi Gregorius, their shortstop, 2 years, $28 million, and they re-signed the best. I think he's the best catcher in baseball. Okay, JT Remuto, 5 years, 115.5 million.
Is it because of his bat more? Or are we talking overall? Like
his defense, he's put out more guys at second base than any other person in the last 3 years. His arm's that good. So
well, he's just doing the same path as Yachty, because here's what I think. Teams got smart and realized he's got a freaking cannon and you're not going to run on him most of the time. So I feel they may not be running on Yachty as much because he's got that veteran tenure and whatnot. Now, that's nothing I'm not saying, but because your catcher is definitely younger than Yachty. Yachty's probably going to have most 2 years of that contract he signed. That's probably his career right there. I can't imagine unless they make the DH okay, but he really wouldn't be a good DH. He had a good bat, not a great bat. So,
he also had a good. He was actually a good hitting catcher. I mean, the catching position historically has not been like the greatest for hitting.
I mean,
okay.
Pudge, and what about what was?
Are you talking about Giambi or Piazza?
Piazza. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But for most of baseball, okay, at least modern baseball, the catcher position is not like you've already
you're not looking for power at the catcher position. They're going to be they're going to be 7, 8, 6, 7, and 8 in your lineup. You're not going to have them in any real hot spot per se anymore. No, you don't see that. That's correct.
Right. So, speaking of, you just brought it up. Actually, we could talk about it briefly. The DH. Okay. on the well, next year it's automatic. The NL is going to be the DH. The DH is going to be in the NL. Whether or not,
I thought, and after they're done, I thought that was going to be squat. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Well, I know that this year was potentially was going to be the last year that the pitchers were going to be hitting, and then next year the DH is going to be in.
Okay.
But they're also trying to get the DH in this year because it helped the pitchers out pretty much.
I mean, it kind of does. I mean, plus it could make the game more interesting having, because obviously historically you don't see pitchers having 300 career batting averages or anything. So
right.
But yeah,
so,
I mean,
yeah. So but the other rules are going to stay in effect. Like if there's a doubleheader, it's going to be 7 innings, and if it goes into extra innings, then you start a guy on second.
Isn't it crazy to think the evolution of baseball back in the 50s and 60s? These guys were throwing double headers. Pitchers were going out and throwing 2 games, throwing 250 pitches. And here we are now doing 7-inning double headers. It's like, it's weird. Maybe it's just because of the evolvement of our bodies and the genetics in our bodies that it goes backwards with that.
I think the thing is that players are getting paid hell of a lot more.
Well, and you know what? That's the thing. You know what? Medical staff is probably saying, no, you really shouldn't. You're not built to do that. That's not what our bodies are physically built to do. To go throw 250 pitches. I don't see any. That'd be bad. I think you'd have a lot of wild pitches in the second game. I do.
Right, and plus we don't have players that are pitching 30 complete games a year.
True. You're lucky to get 6.
You're lucky to get 5, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 or 4. So
right. And plus, you don't see like 30-game winners either.
No.
I mean, when's the last 20-game winner? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'd have to look.
So, but you see strikeouts are up though. What was it? Garrett Cole and Verlander both had 399 or and 19 or something like that. So, yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Definitely.
So, was there any? I don't recall. I don't think there was anything else we needed to talk about. Was there?
I mean, we could discuss what the Deshaun Watson deal is going on in NFL because
that's right.
There's quite a few possibilities out there for him. And okay, so we're talking about Deshaun Watson. Here his 2020 stats, all right? He had a 70.2% completion percentage, which when you're in the 70s, you're doing well as an NFL quarterback. He went for 4,823 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 picks. That is a 4.5 to 1 ratio, touchdowns to picks. So you got to think that's obviously going to add value to the teams that are interested. Mm-hmm. You have the Miami Dolphins, the Patriots, the New York Jets. I'm a Bears fan, and I've heard plenty of this is what could happen. This is what could happen if this did this, and this is what the Bears should offer, and this. And you know what? I think it'd be a mistake for the Bears to go after him regardless of anything, because if we get him and we give the farm for him, we don't have anything to re-sign Allen Robinson, who, in my opinion, is something that needs to be done, because then if we lose him, we don't have a number 1. And I mean, are we in a position to have to draft a receiver first? I don't believe so. I believe we need to go O-line. But going back to the Deshaun Watson, so the New York Jets, why do people think that is the best fit for him? He gains nothing going from the Texans to the Jets from what I see. He doesn't have any more, like he doesn't have a receiver. He doesn't have a receiver at the Texans right now. And I know that the Texans owner has openly come out numerous press conferences and say we don't want to trade him. He's an asset to the team, but he's going to be involved with everything. He's a huge part of the picture of our image, and we think moving forward, it will be with him. We do not want to trade him. He said that, but I don't see the.
You know what? But they have to kind of say that. No, they kind of have to say that. I mean, sure. they're just like, but then we don't know what's going to happen at the rest of this month or early next month.
Right. I don't think anything's really going to take light until after the Super Bowl, to be truthfully honest.
Right, and teams are going to like, what are you willing to part for us to have Deshaun Watson? And I don't see. I just can't see him. I just can't see him going to the Jets. The Jets have a worse O-line than the freaking Texans. I mean, Sam Darnold was getting killed last year.
Yeah,
all right,
for sure.
With that O-line, and if they don't fix that O-line, you're gonna see Deshaun Watson running for his freaking life. All right, every game. So he doesn't have a wide receiver. Okay, a dependable one. He's got wide receivers, but they're not dependable.
No, they're not.
And he doesn't have really running back.
Running back either.
So why would he?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It's weird.
He would have to go. He would have to go somewhere where that he has a fighting chance.
But see, and that's what's scary because I feel like if the Bears had cap room, they could go after him and maybe even get Robinson on board. But here's like the Patriots were talked about, but I think really they don't really have enough to give up. They're stingy. They're not going to give up much, I don't think. They never really have to get what they want. I mean, think about it. They got Randy Moss for pretty much nothing for him to finish. What did he play? 1 season, 2 seasons with them? Just so Tom Brady had 6 receivers to throw to that year? Good Lord. But I don't think the Pats, Miami, here's the thing. The Bears I saw a rumor that the Bears would have been involved in a 3-team or 4-team trade or whatever, where the Bears would end up getting Tua and Miami would end up getting Deshaun Watson. And I was like, I mean, Tua's young, but I don't know.
Tua's young and he's still cap friendly.
He's still cap friendly because he hasn't been able to play, so you don't pay him big dollar until you see what he can do.
Right. And then you may be able to re-sign Robinson.
Right. And then see, that's the thing. That's if we're going to transition into talking about kind of options that would be, I feel, proper for the Bears, that would be one, which would be great. When I saw that, I was like, okay, that wouldn't be bad because we're not the ones that are taking on Watson. We're going to get Tua and have to give up what? Are we going to give him – because I feel like Foles is still signed for a backup. I don't think we just picked him up for the rest of the season. I feel like we have him for another year. I really don't care because I hope he doesn't see the field, to be honest. But, I mean, if we could get Tua and we put him as our starter, it's no different than putting Trubisky as the starter. And that's just it. That's what would be hard is if we did get Tua. I don't think he's start ready in Nagy's system. Maybe he is. I don't know. But the other problem is let your ego down and don't use your system the way you have and use it to play into your players' talents. So,
I also heard a rumor that Deshaun Watson could literally go to San Francisco.
Yeah, and you know what? there are a few people on my Facebook page that are Niner fans, and I've seen them post on articles and spoof trade offers, hypotheticals for them. And I look just to see what their comments are. I really don't read the articles, but the reason why I just read their comments is they're like, we have a quarterback in Garoppolo. And I feel Garoppolo is a quarterback who is a slightly better, he's better than average. I don't find him to be a superstar. That defense comes back healthy. I think that they're no more dangerous. I mean, they're just as dangerous as what I felt the Bears were, with Fangio as our defensive coordinator. That was a scary looking defense when we had that, and then it disappeared. But I don't know if that was the defense saying F you because they've been on the field for so long throughout the season, or there was animosity towards they felt like the offense was being stupidly ran, which I think is the case. That's just my theories, and I've also heard other 670 The Score analysts lay into what happened, and it's a bad scene right now to be a Bears fan, but hopefully we can get by this next few years, because I'm not promising. I'm not very promising. I think they're thinking we can compete with what we got, and we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're safe because our president and GM, or our president, is, I don't really think the greatest. He was in finance before this. Why does he should have a little football knowledge, and he came from finance. So I think there's something weird about that.
Yeah. Yep.
Mr. Ted Phillips, why did you hire Ryan Pace? I can't say I'm against Nagy. I think Nagy did keep the team together. If we had Trestman as our head coach at the last year, I think it would have been a complete disaster, and Trestman would have been the first Bears head coach to get fired during the regular season, because it's not the Bears' way to do that. They at least get to the end of the season. They've never fired a head coach. So, but I don't know. Where do you think? I mean, Deshaun, going back to that, I don't know. I mean, he has to go to a team that he can be a contender, because I think that if he goes to a team that he's got or at least one target to throw to, that's dangerous in itself, because he has the numbers that he has with mediocre receivers.
Well, I know there's a couple teams that are looking for quarterbacks, but sure. Indy will be looking for a quarterback because Rivers retired.
Yes, and I think that might be one of the better fits, but the question is, does Indy want to put out the money? Because their offensive line is very good. They gave plenty of protection. He still got sacked, but he didn't get sacked.
He didn't get sacked as much, right?
Right. So I think there was a game or two I can recall where he was sacked quite a few times, but overall, that is a good offensive line, and that's even more dangerous when you talk about the run factor.
Right.
So, but I think we can close it up for episode 2.
Episode dos.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Well, these will continue to evolve and get better. If you're listening to this point, and this is every Tuesday at 6:30. Most shows will probably run a half hour. If we feel the need to run over, as you know, it was stated earlier, it's fine. But give us a listen. We will we'll have some more details as this hopefully continues to progress into something where we'll have kind of some plans and give you guys insight as to what we're going to talk about the following weeks.
All right. Well, well put, Todd. Well put. And we will see you next Tuesday.
Hey, Chris. ILL.
Yes.
ILL. Yep.
Yeah.
Nah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.